Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of Papa Spice's Hot Takes with Hans and Harry. So glad to have you guys here today, and thank you for tuning in to listen. So what is Hot Takes? Well, Hot Takes is a show with me and two of my buds. We're going to be talking about pop culture. You might know me, Papa Spice, Greg Rice, from my YouTube channel. And that might be where you're watching it. But if you're catching the audio on Spotify or any other place, you know, I appreciate you tuning in regardless. On my YouTube channel, I like to do spicy challenges and reviews and stuff like that. There's not going to be any type of spicy food here, but there are going to be some spicy takes, and those coming from myself and my friends. So I'm sure you've already seen the episode title when you hit download to listen to our podcast, but today's episode is going to be about the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. We're talking Chapter 16, The Rescue. And yeah, so that's pretty much it as far as our show goes. We're going to try and keep a somewhat brisk pace, but, you know, we'll see where it goes. So a little bit about myself. Name's Greg. As I mentioned, I have a YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe to that. Check out my videos. I met my boys Hans and Harry here, who Hans you'll hear alternatively referred to as Chris. But I met them through a former job I had many, many years ago. Chris, I think it's been almost 20 years. It's close to 20 years for us, and Harry, it's like 15. So, yeah, it was like 2003. So yeah, we're trucking on up there as far as intros go. But, you know, as far as myself, a little bit about me, live in Jersey, have a daughter and a wife, doing good over here. Love to play Magic the Gathering. Love to collect hot toys. If you don't know what they are, look them up. I promise they're not anything weird.
Hot.
Yeah. And Dragon Ball figures as well. I love to collect those. But we're here for pop culture, and that's what we're going to be talking. So Hans, my man Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you very much, Greg. So, as Greg said, my real name's Chris. I go by Hans, which is complimentary to Harry, giving that name many years ago. I'm from Pennsylvania. As Greg had mentioned, I met both these guys from a previous job. So I'm very into the pop culture world in terms of hot takes. I am usually the one that will kind of troll someone in terms of any kind of controversial topic in the science fiction world. I do not like Christopher Nolan films except Interstellar. Other than that, I have a wife and a son. You know, I love talking about anything about movies and TV shows. One of the things I've been wanting to do for a while is get on a podcast and be able to share my thoughts and kind of discuss them with anyone else that is interested. So this is something I've been wanting to kind of get involved with for a very long time. So thankfully, Greg had invited me to join this.
And we love to have you.
Yeah.
And yes, your takes are usually the spiciest of our group. So
the hottest.
We all know who the troublemaker is going to be.
Let's hope we don't have to rank Nolan movies.
Yeah. All right. My buddy Harry, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. Or should I say Papa Spice? Yeah. So expanding the brand with the Papa Spice. As Greg said, I'm Harry. I will soon have a wife, get married this year. Both Papa Spice and Hans will be there. So met you guys, as you guys were saying, about 15 years ago, at a lovely job, where it was better 15 years ago than it is today. I'll say that much. But yeah, I'm into a lot of things. I like to just pretty much watch anything. I'll give anything a shot. You know, when the wife has on the Grey's Anatomy, I'll get sucked into that. I can't believe that's the first thing that came to my mind for saying things, but yeah. But Star Wars, obviously, big impact on my life. Wasn't so sure about Mando during the first season, I got to be honest, but very excited to continue it because I felt like the season was a lot better. But yeah, I mean, also in Liverpool Football Club, you know, an English Premier League team, so let's go. Yeah, and just anything. Let's talk about anything. Let's go.
And I would also say that you're like our resident auteur director / artsy film guy. I think Chris and I we dive right into the geeky side of things.
Oh,
but
100%.
you more so, I'd say dabble is a little weak. You do more than dabble on the geeky side, but when it comes to art films and stuff like that, you're the guy.
Listen, I'm always the first one on that. You guys will watch the new Batman, the new whatever. I will stick to my art house. 7 people saw it and me, so I'm all in.
What was the last oh God, I can't even think of his name now. What a terrible film fan I am. What's the guy that everybody is like, oh, the greatest actor of our generation?
Miles Teller?
No, shut up. And this podcast is taking a turn already. We're not even talking about Mando yet. No, from Phantom Thread.
Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, that's right. DDL,
Yeah.
as we call him in the know. Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis. You're like Daniel Day-Lewis, big guy.
Doesn't matter. I'm not gonna lie. I'll watch Daniel Day-Lewis sit in a corner reading rice-a-roni ingredients for 2 hours.
And what a sight it would be.
I'm
sure that would be almost as exciting as the
best performance ever.
I'll give him that fourth Academy Award.
Don't let Sean hear you that you're dissing. Don't let Sean and Frank hear you dissing Phantom Thread.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they're. We'll have to keep it quiet. So moving on from Phantom Thread, the real reason we're here, like I mentioned, talking about Mando Season 2, Chapter 16, The Rescue. So what we're gonna do, we were kind of thinking of ways to tackle this and decided that we're going to kind of just do a breakdown of different points and thoughts we had about the episode going chronologically. So if you guys watch the episode, our points will kind of reflect as the episode progresses.
Yeah.
So we did that just for you guys, our listeners. So I guess I'll start off. The first note that I really had was
hold on real quick. We're going spoilers. So I mean, I know
thank you.
If you haven't seen it, pause us, come back, and then resume.
Heavy spoilers. I'm talking like the heaviest. We're gonna be not cutting anything. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, pause, go check it out, come back. Hans, you wanted to say something?
You need to put a spoiler warning on it at this point. This is like saying, like, if you're talking about Empire Strikes Back.
We know people that haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we have to. I didn't put one in the tags or anything yet, but yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, definitely. Sure. Thank you for that, Harry. That was a good catch.
Of course.
Okay, so the first point that I noticed is when everybody's in the bar. I kind of found it interesting that Bo-Katan downplayed helping out with the rescue of the child and taking down Moff Gideon, because she knows Gideon has the Darksaber. Like she knew, like, even from earlier in the season we saw that. So why is it that she is like she's like really coy and almost aloof about it? And I'm like, what's going on there? I don't know. I found it weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely to help for the next season of Mandalorian. I think there's definitely some ambiguity there left with her character as far as what she's saying. But it's like, these are perfect opportunities to have a discussion that, hey, I need to beat Moff. So just a heads up. I need to actually fight him in combat to get his sword. Or to even just have any type of, rational discussion.
Yeah, no mention of that anywhere to the boys.
Nothing, nothing.
We're the ladies.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, and kind of when I saw your note about that, one of the things I noticed is I don't know whether or not if she kind of was kind of looking at it and saying, all right, well, this small group's going to try and take over, like a Imperial destroyer, and in that point, she's probably looking at it saying, like, we don't have enough people. And I'd like the risks, like, is the risk really is it really worth it at this point? But, I mean, as we saw later in the episode, they're like a small army. Like, they had absolutely no problem wiping that ship out.
I mean, to be fair, it's like 3/4, if you count Boba, Mandalorians, and additional people versus stormtroopers. Like, come on.
Exactly. Yeah. But,
listen, stormtroopers have an incredible record of killing and destroying and dominating. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. It was interesting, like her hesitancy, but you know, I mean, I don't want to say it worked out for her in the end. We'll probably get to that a little bit.
Harry, you had a thought about the mission itself?
Yeah, listen, I mean, there's nothing Star Wars loves more than having to go undercover in the enemy's base or infiltrate a base, or as this episode is titled, the rescue. They love it. If you gotta even look back to the first Star Wars, A New Hope. Spoiler alert, I guess, if you've never seen The New Hope, just in case. But
If you haven't seen it, how dare you?
they gotta go to the Death Star, and they gotta infiltrate the Death Star. And then it's like, if I'm trying to remember the Han Solo movie, but like I feel like they had to go undercover there.
Okay, so let me put a pause on that. Let's go through every movie and see if there is a base rescue or invasion, right? So we'll start with episode 1. The movie starts off with one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Attack of the Clones. Is there one in there?
Technically, I guess. Well, I don't know if it's like I don't know.
On Camino.
I'd say.
I guess you can either count Camino or like even at the like towards the end with the final lightsaber fight, like.
Yeah, all the Jedi like swarm on Geonosis.
I guess they're kind of like infiltrating that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll count that. That's 2. It's a little bit of a stretch. We'll count it. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. We have one there.
The Jedi Temple.
Jedi Temple. Sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Anakin infiltrating and smiting.
I mean, it's definitely in A New Hope. And then I think Empire, they definitely have to go to the Hoth base and infiltrate that.
Well, from the Empire side, but Luke has to go to Cloud City and go in there. So yeah, we'll count that. And then Return of the Jedi, one there.
On Endor.
Endor, yeah. On Endor, they infiltrate the.
And then Force Awakens definitely has it.
Star Killer base,
Yeah.
Last Jedi, your favorite.
Yeah, listen, Ryan Johnson, do whatever you want, my guy.
Look, that's a whole other episode. We can't get into too much of that. But is there a base where the Rebels or the Alliance, whoever?
Yeah. I don't recall in that one, but I mean, definitely in the last one, they have to infiltrate that. What's his face is Palpatine's like lair.
Yeah.
Or that's what they got to go in. But I mean, and even in the subsequent movies, they just love it. Like it's their thing that goes to. And I mean, I know, my future wife Jill loves it as well, where it's just like we're going to save somebody, and it's a trope that just hits, I think, all the time, and it's why they keep revisiting it.
So it's literally like every movie in the Star Wars franchise except Last Jedi, because your boy had to flip the script.
Yeah. I would even say like to make it successful, like if it's higher tier, maybe. I think Solo wasn't higher tier, but it was fine.
I'd tell you if I could remember.
Yeah. Oh, shots
fired.
Yeah.
All right. So So even with all that, you wanted to mention Clone Wars too. Sorry, I'm stepping on your.
There was in reading about the show afterwards. No, you're not stepping on anything. I saw that like you knew about the Darksaber if you watched the Clone Wars. And for me, seeing some of the reveals, obviously season, I've never seen the Clone Wars. I'm sorry, everyone. I don't know if that's gonna hurt your thoughts on my takes, but that's why they're hot and spicy.
I'll admit. I'm a bad fan. I have not seen Clone Wars either. Chris,
I think
Hans,
Chris
how about you?
Definitely has. I think
I've seen. I saw the Clone Wars a long time ago, like when the older seasons. I wanted to go back and rewatch when they released the last season for it. I did watch the last season, pretty much all the way through, but I don't remember too much from what was released before. Like I've like kind of like a smaller amount of knowledge with it, but it definitely a lot of the Mando ties into Clone Wars with some of the characters, especially like the Darksaber, like Ahsoka and all those. But I would definitely recommend going to watch it. I mean, one of the things I want to do is go back and revisit Clone Wars and Rebels, because there's so much. I feel like what Mandalorian's doing is opening up kind of the Star Wars world and tying it into like Clone Wars and Rebels, which from Clone Wars, the quality of it is fantastic. I would definitely, some of it I would even tie into being just as good as the movies. And Rebels, that's another one I want to get back into. But yeah, it's it's good. The way that they're tying everything in to that, it's doing it really well. So it's something I recommend both of you guys watching.
So like definitely bonus if you've seen that. I have like a cursory knowledge of stuff where like even though I haven't watched it, I'm kind of aware of what happens. And so I appreciate it, although probably not as deeply as you do, those ties, Chris. Harry, how about you? Did you have any cursory knowledge, or you're just like, WTF? What's
yeah, I would say it's definitely a piece, a puzzle piece missing in my jigsaw puzzle of Star Wars knowledge. So, but I mean, that's where the Darksaber came into play for me, where like I read about it and it was like, oh yeah, like we knew some people were like, yeah, the whole combat scene that Moff and Mando have later is definitely something where people were like, oh no, and I was just watching like, oh cool, he got him. Go return the saber. But yeah, it's just it's something that I think it's interesting to think about from people who know about that perspective while watching, while my perspective was, oh, this is cool, in a way for that. But yeah.
Okay. Speaking of cool, and I guess this probably ties into Clone Wars a little bit because of Bo-Katan, but also I think more so Attack of the Clones. But I really liked that interplay between Boba and Bo-Katan, where she's like, "You're a clone," or I've heard your voice 1,000 times, whatever the line is.
Basically calling each other names, but like not
right,
anything aggressive.
Yes. So that's just the cool little Easter egg where it's like she acknowledged he's a clone.
Yeah.
And then also, cool, even more so, kick butt, I think, is Casca Reeves, played by Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Varnado. I'm a big WWE fan, but I really enjoyed that little set of moves that she put on Boba, the little sweet knee into the spinning DDT. I thought that was pretty.
I put $5 on Greg rewatching that scene at least 10 times to be like, all right, so it was a sweet knee into a spinning DDT just to get the moves right, just to know what was happening.
I will say it's under, but close.
That had to have been like somewhere in like a contract where she says, "I'll do this, but at some point in my appearances, I have to do a WWE move." On Boba Fett.
Yes, I'm sure that was
in the Rock's contract. Yes. Yeah,
I want all red M&Ms, and I have to do a WWE move.
Yeah. It's like The Rock having to do a rock bottom in a movie.
Oh yeah, always. And sidetracking again, sidebar here. I just watched Hobbs and Shaw recently, and I noticed Roman Reigns is in there, and of course they had to throw him wrestling moves. Now darn well Roman Reigns doesn't have any rights to say, "Oh, let me do my moves, let me put in my catchphrase or whatever." But like, why are the writers or like the director allowing this stuff? Like it always comes off hokey. I'm a wrestling fan. I love that.
It's gotta come from The Rock. The Rock's like, yo, Roman, you're gonna be doing this.
But why? Like it's unnecessary. Like it's cool enough seeing him in there. I don't need him to do actual WWE moves in the production. So moving forward, we got Doc Pershing. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, they go find Doc on a ship. I mean, again, I don't need the episode to be 2 hours long, but like they know where he's going, just like that. I guess they're keeping him under wraps because I guess they're trying to do it secretly to get him back onto the ship, or he's traveling light because he has no protection. He's got 2 guys in this ship with him. He's got no TIE fighters, like making sure everything's cool. They're just like cruising along, not in light speed.
Yeah, there's no squadron.
There's nothing. With that. And then I know you were mentioning, Greg, about him like just all of a sudden just being like, here you go, what do you need?
Yeah, so he gets captured, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, might as well switch sides, let me help out, here's the plans for the Star Destroyer. Like, what is that? Can you guys fathom any reason other than I just don't want them to shoot me for him helping out?
No.
Just he's a little weasel.
The only thing that I can think of is just what everybody else thinks is they love Grogu, Baby Yoda, and he just has a soft spot for this child and thinks what he's doing is wrong, but he's like, I guess I'll like try to save the kid now.
Yeah.
I got what I needed. We got his blood, but now I can just give it up. That's what I mean. Maybe
that was the only kind of thread of logic that I could see as well, where it's like, Gideon talks about it later, but it's like, all right, we already got what we needed from him, sure, okay, let me help these guys as long as it saves my skin.
Yeah, and then I think going off of that point, it's like everybody for Grogu is like all about it. They're all about like when he was talking to Cara Dune like a couple episodes ago, Mando was, and he says, they got the child. They're coming for the child, and it's like everybody drops what they're doing. They don't care about their jobs. She just got promoted into this new force she's in, and she's just like, I'll risk it for this kid, man. I'm in. And
Oh yeah, that cute little kid. Yeah, gang. Let's get it.
What they took him like I think even in the first episode when the
everybody's ride or die for Grogu.
Yeah, but when he lands back on Tatooine and he meets up with the lady and she's like, where's the kid? Where's the kid? And I think that's like them acknowledging also with the audience about how much like everybody rides for Grogu, because I'll tell you, watching with Jill, she's like, where's Grogu? What's he doing? Where is he? When's he coming back? Like that's all she thinks about throughout the entire episode.
Side note, and I don't mean to be like elitist nerd here or whatever, but like it really bothers me when people call him Baby Yoda. Like I didn't mind so much in the first season, but now that we know his name is like Grogu, it's like, okay, Grogu the child, acceptable. Like it's not Baby Yoda. That's like me walking up to like Chris's kid and calling him like, I don't know, Baby Chris. It's like that's not his name, You
can.
Baby hands. What about baby hands?
Yeah, Greg, I agree with that, and I'll admit, like the first couple, like maybe episodes, I probably said Baby Yoda, but then I forget who it came out and said it, whether it was Filoni or Favreau. They said like he's just known as the child,
right?
So I started calling him that, and then
it's not Yoda.
Yeah,
probably didn't have his name yet.
It's funny they my wife at the time when they gave him, I said they gave Baby Yoda a name and said Grogu. She's like, nah, I'm just gonna call him Baby Yoda. Whatever.
That's it. Give me your wife's geek card.
Yeah.
Speaking of geeking out, Harry and we were geeking out over something.
Oh yeah. Well, first, I mean, they give the instructions, Mando, we need you to like, just go do this other thing. But then the girls riding out. Boba's like, I'm peace. I'm just here to set things up. I'm heading out. And all the ladies, all the strong characters, because obviously women are better than men. We all know that. They just roll through, storming some stormtroopers.
Yeah. I got to say, like, so the quote-unquote A-Force scene in Avengers Endgame where it's all the female Avengers, that was pretty cool, although it did feel kind of forced. Here, it did not feel forced. Yeah. It's like, this is who we have in the squad. Yeah. We're coming out. We're kicking butt, taking names. Yeah. Like, they were pretty sweet, man.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I same with I felt with the Avengers, the Endgame, that was very forced. But at the same time, like these were established characters that we had from the beginning of the season, and even some of them last season with like Cara Dune. But I think what really helped with that whole scene was their chemistry together. That's why I don't think it felt forced. Like the way they were kind of working together, it seemed like they were just having fun doing it. Like they had screen time before, but then you have like with Avengers, if compared to that, like a lot of these characters who weren't even ever on the screen together and just came through. That's why I agree. Like it felt a little forced, but the Star Wars characters, they had previous experience together, like just storming a base or however you want to call it.
Yeah, and I mean they use that in the other episodes to kind of set that up with the way they performed together. At least they had time together where it was like, hey, when they had to go, I forget, to the Empire's base in the forest. I forget what it was called, to be honest. But they went there, and it was like those two were like sniping, so they kind of have that built that relationship a little bit. But definitely cool. They came out blasting, as they like to say. Yeah, they did.
It was dope.
Smoking, yeah.
And speaking of dope, I know, don't you love my transitions? My segues. The Dark Trooper design and the execution of that I thought was very cool, very dope. Interesting, when I was watching the gallery on the making of season 2, which fantastic show. If you haven't watched it, go out of your way to watch it. I was a little bummed season 2 was only one long episode as opposed to season 1. But it's a docuseries about the making of Mando. And they mentioned that the Dark Troopers were actually like live action. I mean, there are some CG elements. They're not totally live action. But yeah, it was pretty astounding that they got people to move in unison like that and make it look as robotic as it was. But I really dug them. What do you guys think?
The music was probably what got me. Like that like it sounded like what was it, like kind of like a Skrillex kind of thing was coming through. I heard I'm like,
Yeah, that's a good shout.
yeah, I'm like, Jesus, I'm like, that is great. But I agree. The design was very and you see this in movies all the time where you have like a robot army, and I think one of the designs that I just like, I trying to think how to put this, is how they're very like they moved very well, and like the unison, like their movements and everything were so easy flowing. And I think that the fact that they could have done like specially trained stormtroopers or however they did. But the design, I think, like with the whole like robotic look, their like movements, everything, and they honestly probably, if, and I'm sure we'll touch on this later, if someone didn't show up, they had that kind of very deathly presence.
Yeah, they were definitely menacing.
Yeah, and we saw them before show up, and they were the ones that grabbed Grogu. But other than that, we didn't really see them in action. So
yeah, I never played the games that they were originally introduced in, so I was kind of unfamiliar with them. I thought they were people, which I guess explained that they originally were, and then now they're robotic. But
generation or whatever they say.
But yeah, when they did that scene with Grogu, it was like, oh, okay, like they're just grabbing them and flying off, and I didn't get any menace. And then when you see them all lined up in the bay like that, it's like,
yeah,
okay, these are gonna be tough. And then as we progress,
yeah, and I mean, it just shows. I mean, they talk about, like you were saying, Greg, about how getting rid of the human is like the part of it, and I mean, it just goes to show how useless stormtroopers are. They literally, the girls roll through and they're like blaming them, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, we gotta release these dark troopers because we're just gonna get smoked. So yeah, I enjoyed the sound for that. But yeah, I mean, then Mando rolls in. Well, I shouldn't say rolls in. He calmly gets there. Like, I don't know why he's sneaking around so much. Like, obviously the girls are putting in that work as a distraction. I don't think you need to be walking, bro. I think you need to be moving.
A leisurely stroll.
It took so long to get to the Dark Trooper Bay. So long, I felt.
Not going to disagree with that. Speaking of what should have happened, Mando hustling is one thing, but also when they get into that fight, which I do think was cool. I did like the fight. How is Mando
the power of the Dark Trooper? Yeah.
Yeah, but how is Mando taking those punches to the dome without getting concussed? Like, that dude should have had his bell rung 10 ways from Sunday and been walking like he was a drunk. I mean, it was just insane.
Those early, like, Looney Tunes cartoons where it's like somebody has like a helmet on and they like remove it and they have like bruises and their tongue sticking out and like the stars are flying. Like, that's how Mando's head probably looked if they pulled that helmet off. That's how it should have looked.
Well, yeah, it didn't. No. Look at there, but no.
And it's crazy because like he took, I wish I would have counted how many shots, and they weren't they were like straight up power shots. Yeah. And from what he took the helmet off, I didn't see any padding, so that like he had to have been concussed at some point. Like, he should have seen the doctor after that fight, because
and I don't want to hear any BS about, his alien biology, like his brain is probably in his butt or whatever. Like, I don't want to hear that.
He got two-pieced over and over, and got up and was like, I can fight someone else now.
Our troopers hitting him with that 2-piece and a soda.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good to show the power of one Dark Trooper against our hero, though, with, hey, there's another like 30 Dark Troopers behind them. Just imagine if like they get loose. And I'm gonna stick up for it because I saw some things on the internet after this episode aired of like, why is that air? You
saw things on the internet.
Listen, the internet, it's a dangerous place. When they released the airlock, like, that airlock is there to deploy the Dark Troopers. I don't know if it was in the previous episode, and I should have looked at it to see if that's where they came from. But like, that's there so they have easy access as soon as they're loaded up to go out that. So it made sense to me. It wasn't like, hey, here's a garbage chute that they shoot them out of. But yeah, that's my take on that. That's my hot take.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, it's like you said, there was a logical reason for it being there instead of just magical MacGuffin, like, here's something to deal with them. Like, no, there was an airlock. It's a spaceship. It makes sense.
Yeah, maybe I was looking for a reason, but try to play devil's advocate. I'll do that a lot.
So going back to shady Bo-Katan, they cap the bridge, they take it over, and she just is like, okay, let me stare out at the stars instead of finding her primary quarry, Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
She knows.
They show that scene and they get there and they all cap them and they kill these just like dudes, and then not even stormtroopers, just random guys. But I guess if they're anything like the guy in the beginning of the episode, they're probably pretty terrible. Especially be on Moff ship. And then she just like stands there. It's like, well, maybe take a look.
Yeah. Where could they be?
Yeah. The first thing I thought of was that Eric Andre meme where he's like shooting someone and they're like, why would you do this? Like,
yeah.
After like later when she's like, oh, what did you do? Like, you didn't do anything.
Exactly. Like you clearly knew you had to go and do something about it. Instead, you just chilled.
You just decided to hang out.
Yeah.
I have a question here. This is less of a take, but Gideon, when Mando shows up and the kid is there, Gideon says his blood has rare properties, blessed with the potential to bring order back to the galaxy. So is that a reference to we're trying to make Palpatine clones, or is that like we're just going to try and use his midichlorian blood and work some wonky sorcerer's ways?
So the time frame of like Mando's 5 years after Return of the Jedi,
right?
And we're kind of seeing like the beginning, like the beginning of the First Order coming to play. So with the way that the sequel trilogy played out, I think that it is is for Palpatine clones. There's a lot of time that went through like Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens where obviously Snoke was like at the time running the show. Yeah. So I think at some point they probably had some clones where he had force power. So I think that at some point they were,
they decided 10 feet was better than 2 feet.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that we're starting to see, or at least they were hinting at that, and they have so much more Mando. I hope Mando in the future that they're going to build on that, and I think with the arrival of Grogu going into Jedi training, I think we're going to start to see, or at least have some of that referenced. I do believe that's blood for Palpatine. I don't know. He kind of just showed up in the sequel trilogy, so I'll leave my thoughts about that.
For the next,
we need more content.
Yeah. He just showed up. Dead speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I think it definitely is going to be something that the internet's going to be talking about, probably for the next Mando season, or as they build this world, as Disney announced a couple months back, of all the shows they're going to be putting out. So I think it's a great question. I mean, if I had a guess, I'd probably say, given the response to the newest trilogy, it would make sense that, it would be blood used for Palpatine clones, or, in that vein of experimenting to try and make sense for that, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up, boys.
As my cat rolls through.
All right, and then what do we think about the Mando and Gideon fight?
I thought it was dope. I mean, I thought it was a cool fight. I mean, definitely not on top level, Star Wars fights. But I thought it was a pretty well done fight for a season finale scene, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I nothing.
It was clear. It was clear. It wasn't like it was some Jason Bourne like camera cuts, where you can't see what's happening. It was clear as what was going on.
Well, and so they touch on this in gallery, but the thing for me is that to our knowledge, Moff Gideon doesn't have any swordsmanship skills or training with a blade. So it reflected that in the fight. Yeah. The fight made sense from that regard. It wasn't all of a sudden he shows up and he's doing twirls and all this stuff. It wasn't like he was some fencing expert.
He's got that cool weapon to over, not let people know how crappy of a swordsman he is.
Hans, what about you? Was it enough?
Yeah. One of the things I have a gripe with in movies sometimes is Gideon is much older than Mando. And like you said, he has no like
ageist.
he has no official training, and he was like wildly swinging this like ancient weapon.
Right.
But I agree that I feel like Mando should have been able to finish him off quicker, and we've seen him go against God like so many different like villains throughout the show, and this old man comes along with a sword and is giving him a hard time. But at the same time, and he's also wearing Beskar armor, which is it can't hurt. The Darksaber can't penetrate, so he should have just
just mentioned can't penetrate it.
Yeah, he should have just walked up to him and like give him a little knock in the face.
Oh, dude, I just had like a Force epiphany here. We should have gotten Mando just whipping out his blaster, taking him out one shot, a la Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
in that Lucasfilm
Dude,
synergy, baby.
That would have been great. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the fight. Like you guys had said, it wasn't like this like elegant, like great, like crazy fight. Like we're not looking at Obi-Wan versus Anakin.
Right.
It was like it was a sloppy fight, but it fit into the show like really well. Like not taking away, like I said, he's an old man, but Mando should have just like took the shots from the saber and then give him a little crack in the head.
That's fair shout. I was also going to say too, I mean, I felt, as it moves on and he defeats Moff and then brings him back to the bridge. I mean, again, the whole issue, like just tell him you got to defeat him in combat. Like that's all you got to say. And then by the time, he figures it out or he gives you a shout on the comms to get over there. But I felt like the Dark Troopers returning, little slow. I get it. They got shot out of there, but like, how far do they go? Like before they turn their jetpacks on to come back? Like, shouldn't that be like if they react to, who shows up soon,
right?
So quickly, how is it that they're like, let's float a little bit before we turn our jetpacks on? I mean, I get it. It's episode logic. I'm nitpicking here, but like, that's my take of just like, come on, you got to get back there faster. Your boss is in trouble. He's obviously fighting. You got that. Spidey sense as a dark trooper or dark sense, I guess. I don't know what they call it. Like, get back in there. Help your boy.
Fair. And I'm wondering what their exact orders were. Is it like protect Moff Gideon? Is it take out the invaders? Like what exactly is spurring them on? But that's neither here nor there.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very like they kind of like were they just floating outside the ship for a little bit? Like, all right, now we'll go.
Get them. We're gonna sneak up.
Wait.
Gave enough time for suspense.
Yeah. Gideon has to give a little speech. After that was it probably.
So what took out the Dark Troopers? Let's talk about it. We know, I mean, I asked that facetiously because we all know we're here. Spoilers, baby. Yeah. But the big surprise of the episode, Luke Skywalker. You guys have some thoughts?
I thought it was cool.
Man.
Just kidding.
This is great.
I guess leading up to it, I knew I wasn't confident we were actually going to see who the Jedi was that was going to grab Grogu. I thought that was going to be maybe either addressed in a next season or I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
The way it was done, I loved it. At the time when you see the X-wing and you're like, all right, well, it started like when I rewatched it, it made sense. Like you're like, all right, well, Luke flies an X-wing, like But when I was actually watching the episode and I saw the green saber, that was where I kind of was very confident was Luke, because the only other two Jedis that at least I knew that had green sabers were Qui-Gon and Yoda. It wasn't.
And
Yoda.
it ain't them.
It wasn't Yoda, and Qui-Gon. He kind of got ended a lot of years before. So I was like, no. And then I saw the glove, and I'm like, it has to be. I was more kind of onto the point where how they were going to, like, if they were actually going to show him or, like, how he was going to look. And, the CGI. And, I thought it was well done. I love the whole – we never got to see him in action. So, like, at least from that level, so.
For me, like, I thought it was him – again, like, yeah, it's like when I saw the X-Wing, it's like, oh, my God. And then when you see that green lightsaber, oh my God. So the lightsaber kind of sealed the deal for me. And then it was just icing on the cake when you see the glove and all that stuff. But that was the aha moment for me. It's like, oh my God, it's Luke. Luke's here.
I know a lot of people. Oh, go ahead, Harry.
No, yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I think a lot of fans, and definitely, putting your nerd hat on. It's like X-wing, Luke, right? And then you're like, I don't know though, and you have that like reservation of like, I don't want to say it, but like, I hope it is. And then you see him kind of in that robe, kind of Obi-Wan style, and you're like, I don't know, it could be. And then you see the green lightsaber, and as Chris says, you put your nerd hat on, and you're like, I don't know how many people have them. And then you see the glove, and you're like, I don't know if you both a glove, not a lot. So you definitely get that element of that build up there, which was really well done. Before he removes obviously his top to let it down and show.
Yeah, it absolutely was like, and then it was very and I call these from movies now whenever they have the on your left moment, which is the thanks to Avengers Endgame. But I thought the way like we never. And I said this before, we never saw Luke really in battle. In terms of, we saw him fight Vader twice. The first time he got wiped clean and got his arm cut off. And then the other time we see him, like he fought Vader, and then we don't see him for another 30 years. So there's so much time between like how Luke was, what he was doing in that time. So we see him to the point like it's 5 years later after Return of the Jedi, and he's like mastered his skills. And I'd love to see like how his lightsaber, like his battle technique was like very like it was so smooth. And I love this like how you get to see his force powers, where like at the last Dark Trooper he like basically just like crushed him. And those were powers I didn't even think like Luke would even had. Like he just like easily wiped them all out. So I think that's what, and from the sequel trilogy, that's what a lot of people wanted to see. And I don't know whether or not this is like, I don't know if this is like course correction going forward, like whether or not like Filoni and Favreau were like, all right, well, all these people were not happy with how Luke was treated in the sequels. Let's do something about it. But at least now we're going to do it like in a part of our story that makes sense. So I whether or not that will be true, I don't know. But it was definitely an on your left moment, and it was a very. I'm not gonna lie, it brought a tear to my eye when I was like, and I screamed things that I don't want to repeat here.
I will second you. I didn't scream things, but I did get misty-eyed for sure. That's my Luke moment.
Yeah, I said some things, and I'm like, oh my god, like. Yeah, and even when I watched it again, I got the same feeling where you're like, all right, well, this is actually happening, and
it's wild. Yeah. Going back to picking nits though, because that's fun. How do the Dark Troopers suddenly recognize Luke as the priority? Like they're pounding on that door, that blast door.
This is what I was saying earlier. It's like you don't realize you got to turn on the jets to get back to the thing because literally everybody's dead except for Moff. And it's like, how do they like all of a sudden have this like force moment where they're like, "There's a Jedi here," or like that somebody's
3 floors below.
Yeah, like all of them. Like none of them tried to get in.
Nah.
I mean,
they all just stopped and like redirected, and it's like, okay. I mean, sure, whatever.
Definitely a nitpick for sure. With that.
How do we feel about that? Like, Rogue One comparison shot. I mean, I know we kind of talked about the whole scene with Luke versus the Dark Troopers, and I feel like at least Hans and me, that's definitely what we wanted to see. But like that comparison shot where it's Luke with the green saber pointed down and he's coming through the mist, kind of like Vader did at the end of Rogue One. I thought that was pretty cool. What do you guys think? Yeah,
I mean, I think for me, it's if you look at Rogue One and what everybody talks about Rogue One. And at least to me is, dude, when Vader shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's kind of the talking point, which why a lot of people reacted to this episode of being, as highly, thought of as they did, because there's that Luke moment, I think that's a slight issue I have with Mando in a way is like while I do enjoy the episodic nature of like, I could pick out one Mando episode and just kind of watch it, even though there is a continuous through line with it. There is this element to me where it's just like, oh, this is the Luke episode. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, are we going to build on this content or is this just a Luke episode?
Right.
For it.
It's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I was gonna say, what did you guys think of, I think Greg, you said you didn't mind the CGI, but what did you guys think about them not using an actor to kind of either recast or to reuse? Is it like, because I think Luke is like on that level of like, you don't recast, or have another actor play him, but they did it with Solo. So like, to me, like a Solo was always thought of higher in esteem. Not for me personally. I always enjoyed Luke more, but sorry, I'm rambling.
Hands, you want to take it first? I see you're
Yeah,
chomping at the bit.
I didn't mind the CG. Like I thought the way it was done, like
it looked good.
Yeah, it looked great. And the problem I have with the internet a lot, like in terms of like stuff like that, is people will like pick anything apart. Like some people, like the majority.
Almost like we're doing it now.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the people on the internet.
So many people were like, "Oh well, I couldn't stand the black line behind his head." Like I didn't notice that at all. I'm like, I'm watching this from like a TV, like what 7 to 8 feet like away. Like I wasn't that wasn't what I was noticing. I was noticing that like Luke Skywalker showed up. Like he could have been drawn with crayons, and as long as they somehow made it look like Luke Skywalker, I wouldn't have cared. Yeah. Like I thought the CGI was Star Wars has kind of perfected the de-aging, like with Leia. I had a problem with Rogue One with Tarkin. He moved too much, and it was like obvious that it was extremely obvious it was CGI.
Yeah.
I mean, they used the CGI, they used the de-aging in Rogue One, and it looked great for Leia.
Mm-hmm. And I think what was smart about this is they didn't try to put anybody behind him. They didn't try to have him walk through everybody. They just kind of had him standing there, to make it more, realistic or whatever, of just being like, hey, he's right here. He's turning around. He's leaving.
Right.
Which was cool too.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the CG was fine. Didn't have any problems with it as far as casting/recasting. Should they have? I mean, they had the option to go with the original Luke, and I'm happy that they did. But if they recasted, I wouldn't have been mad about it, but I probably would have said, like, why not just go with Mark Hamill? Now,
if having Mark a larger discussion,
if Hamill was like way, way older, where it didn't physically make sense for him to do it, or God forbid, if Hamill wasn't here, then okay, I guess it makes sense. And the fan casting Sebastian Stan, I don't think is a bad pick. I think that it could be cool. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm happy they went the route that they did.
And you look at it this way, is the fact that was like a cameo, basically, in terms of like, we don't know what the future of Mando is going to be. Like, will Luke be a regular character, or like will he show up like more than once? If this is the only time we see Luke in Mando, then don't recast. It doesn't make sense to recast it. You have the technology to make him look basically like he did in Return of the Jedi.
Touching on your point, I mean, if this is the only other time where we ever get to see Luke, period, in like an actual filmic thing, I'm happy that Hamill got to play him one last time and do it the justice that it deserved,
Yeah.
Shut up, Last Jedi. All right. So, okay. I guess we're pretty square on the CG there and recasting.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say too, you guys mentioned the Luke moment that kind of got you guys. I think the Mando moment when he has to say goodbye to Grogu, I think was definitely, and I mean, 2 seasons in the making, for sure, of just, their relationship. And, I mean, my wife definitely cried during it, but, I try to keep it together. But there definitely was some moments where it was, it started to get to you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the previous episode, or not the previous episode, but one of the previous episodes, the one with
Bill Burr's episode.
Yeah, Bill Burr, which I thought was like a pretty darn good episode.
Solid, yeah.
But Mando was willing to take off his mask for Grogu in order to save Grogu effectively. So actually seeing him take it off for Grogu directly, and not caring that all these other people are around, is like, it's a powerful moment for sure. I wasn't quite as emotionally invested as when I saw Luke, because I'm an old school fan, but it was still very powerful for me. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a touching scene.
Yeah, I agree. And I forgot the finale for season 1. He does take his mask off, but Grogu doesn't see it. I think it's just if I
it's
remember,
only
it's
IG.
just Hera who sees his face. So his whole series, he's very into like the whole Mandalorian lifestyle of of his order not taking the mask
creed.
off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the creed, and it was good to see. Like it was very had like remnants of the Luke moment from Return of the Jedi where Vader took his mask. He took Vader's mask off. So I thought it was a good connection, whether or not that was their intent. But I mean, the way that they're goodbye, I think it's not goodbye, but for them, you know, Grogu's a cash cow for right now for Disney, so he'll be back. But at the same time, you're emotionally invested in these characters for 2 seasons, and they've been in almost every pretty much everywhere together.
Yeah.
So now they have to say goodbye. I agree. It was a tear-jerking moment. I'm 35. I'm not afraid to admit it. I teared up. So.
Going from that to something that I found corny, R2's appearance, cool but gratuitous.
I think I gotta agree with you on this. Yeah,
I'm an OG fan. I love the original Star Wars, although I love all Star Wars. I don't hate on the prequels like some people do. I don't hate on the sequel trilogy except Last Jedi. But but seeing R2 there, I mean, it makes sense, but it's like that felt really fan servicey to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get it that R2 comes in a little late, which is like R2, don't follow while I kill all these dark troopers, and then take the second elevator. I'm going to take the first one up to go see these guys. But yeah, it did feel a bit like, and it felt that way too because him and Grogu kind of have like this like look at each other, and it's like, what are they
have those cute characters together?
Yeah, like whatever, sure, do it.
Yeah, I'm in the fan service boat. He did nothing. He just rolled up, and then it was just like, all right, like he could have like rolled Grogu out or something, but no, he just showed up.
In case you didn't know it was Luke, here's R2.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like, oh, of course R2's there. But it was cool seeing him. I have no problem with seeing him, but I'm 100% on board with the fact that it was just like it was fan service. Like Filoni and Favreau were just like, let's just throw him in. Like,
so question to you guys, if you know it, if you don't bother looking it up, but maybe one of our listeners can comment, but did they have I mean, obviously RIP Kenny Baker, he's gone. Did they have a LP, a little person in there, or was it like legit just automatic robot?
I think at least now with the technology, it's probably just a robot. I mean, it didn't do anything. It just kind of like came up I mean, yeah.
I mean,
they didn't go old school with it.
No, I don't think they went old school. Enough nods to the past. Let the past die.
Oh my God.
I mean, I've been to Disney like so many times, and I've seen like the Star Wars content they have there, and they have like an R2 unit that like rolls on the stage and all that. I'm pretty sure they don't have a little person in there. So
you're telling me there's a chance.
It's possible Disney might have employed someone to compliment, or maybe a small child. I don't know, but yeah, I think on Harry's point, I'm aware. I'm confident that they have the technology to at least make a full robot and not a little person inside controlling it.
Fair enough. Just had to throw it out there. It just came to me. Another thing I kind of picked up on, or not picked up on, but pondered was Cara Dune. She was a part of the Rebel Alliance. I believe she was a drop trooper. And I mean, you would think, so like, I guess my main question is, does she recognize Luke? Because I mean, we look at, our leaders in politics, for better or worse, we recognize them. We know who they are. Yeah. Luke was a general for the Rebels. Yeah. He was one of the top dogs. Like, do you think she is like
saved him like 9 times?
Yeah. Was she having that OMG, it's Luke Skywalker moment like we were? Or was she just like, who is this dude in a robe with a green flashy thing?
It would have been cool if they did like a Marvel cutscene at the end, like Dude, that was Luke Skywalker. Like, just for her character to be like
Yes.
super excited. If they didn't do the other cutscene at the end, but yeah, I think it's definitely a good chance that she obviously is aware of it, which is a cool thought, but definitely didn't feel like they acknowledged that at all. But again, maybe we'll get the Cara Dune show.
Yeah, and she may recognize him. I was more shocked that, and he didn't say his name, but like Bo-Katan had a history with Anakin Skywalker, so he didn't like if he showed up and he's like, "Hey, I'm Luke Skywalker," she would have like been like, "Holy!" But no, I agree. I'm sure she recognizes him at least knows of his existence. And Jedi at this time between the original series and now are like extremely rare.
Yeah.
So, Luke Skywalker was a legend at that, like right around that time. So, I'm sure
he blew up the Death Star. Like people knew his name, Yeah.
If she didn't immediately recognize him, she's got to be like, "Oh, a Jedi!" Like, there's only one that I know of during my lifetime.
Yeah, either she's putting two and two together, or she's a really dumb drop trooper. But I don't think she is. I think she's a strong female.
Absolutely.
And Grogu too. Another thing that kind of came to me is he potentially met 3 generations of Skywalkers. I thought that's a pretty cool connective thread. Chris, you were earlier talking about connecting it to the sequel trilogy, and potentially he met or saw Anakin Skywalker, who was a name Jedi, during the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
He would have been really young, but he could have seen him. Obviously, he's going off with Luke, and then I don't know what his ultimate fate is. If he was at Luke's training camp, Jedi training camp, or what when Ben went nuts. But there's a possibility that he met all 3 gens.
Yeah, I don't. I think that it's potential depending on what direction Mando wants to go in. If they want to like. I even like tossed around the idea of like it would be great if they do like a Jedi Temple series to show. Then this is where recasting Luke would have to come into place, like to show like at the events from when he started to Ben's ultimate craziness. But yeah, I'm sure that he did see all 3 generations. He probably at this point Ben is maybe 5 years old, so I don't think he probably went immediately to the training, but give it like another 5 years, then they're going to be training together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, was he there during the siege of the Jedi Temple during the prequel trilogy? I don't know. Possible. I hope not. But if that's the case, he's seen some stuff that he's got to be traumatized at this point.
Takes a long drag out of a Sig. I was there at the Jedi Temple.
he's going to the new temple. Like, this place looks nice. I'll be all right here.
I think it's probably enough.
Skywalker's freaking out at Jedi temples.
Yeah.
I think he calls it quits. I think he just walks away and says, this is it for me. I saw Anakin burn everything to the ground, and now this guy Ben thinks he's all that. I'm out. I'm retiring.
It's funny too. Like, it'd be funny if they're in the X-wing and Grogu. He doesn't speak, but if he did, like, it was like, "What? What's your name?" He's like, "Luke Skywalker." He's like, "No, turn it around. Take me back."
I love it.
Fair shout.
So
you mentioned earlier, Chris, you're pretty confident we're going to see Grogu again.
I am. He could leave the temple, like he could leave for train. I don't know. With the direction, like that goodbye was very like heartfelt, and I think that we're at least going to see Mando either returning to the temple or going to the temple to like kind of check up on him. Or it's hard to tell. I think we're going to see him again. I don't think we're going to see him before the attack, like Ben's attack on on Luke's temple, only because they'd have to jump like 30 years in the future for that to happen, which I don't think they're going to do.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see like Mando return and at least kind of check up on him. But I don't know if he'll be a regular appearance next season. I think they're going to start to take a different direction. But he has to show up again. I don't see Disney throwing that opportunity away. He's too much, like I said, he's a cash cow for Disney right now. So to kind of throw that character away, it just doesn't make sense.
He's just gonna find another baby named Borgo.
Yeah. Mando's first mission in season 3, he's gonna find like a baby Admiral Akbar.
Oh yeah, Mon Calamari.
Yeah.
Love it. So yeah, I mean, we touched on, does Grogu die when Ben goes nuts? I don't know. I mean, who cares? I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it'll be something that is fan theorized and talked about. So we'll see what happens in the future.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like Hans mentioned, he is a cash cow. So it's possible they could just say, no, he wasn't there because we haven't seen him. And then you have a Grogu series set, whatever, 30, 60.
I'm calling it now. At some point, Grogu learns and gets up trained well and shows up and saves Mando one day.
Oh, snap.
Like a surprise, kind of like the end of this. I'm calling that now. So this is recorded. So this is great.
I think his training's going to be pretty much complete by the time Ben goes nuts. So like I said, we're looking at maybe 20 years.
Yeah,
down the road. So I would hope that he's either a fully trained Jedi or he just didn't realize it wasn't for him and pieced out. I do not.
Ahsoka.
Yeah. He's just like, nah. These people are nuts. So,
Chris, season 2.
Season 2 was the Iron Man 2 of Star Wars. And the reason I'm saying that is because Iron Man 2 was built to set up the Avengers. I feel like season 2 of Mando was setting up the future of Star Wars, all their shows that they're breaking out. We're starting to see Ahsoka's getting her series. Who's getting her series? Ahsoka's. Then there's the Rangers of the New Republic, I believe it's called. We're probably going to see it's going to get to the point where Bill Burr is going to get his own show. And but I'm not complaining. I think Mando did it to the point where they have their established characters, and they're characters that we want to learn about and see their adventures. And I think Iron Man 2's purpose was basically just hey, we're making the Avengers. Season 2 Mando was yes, we're making all these shows, but at the same time it's I feel like they're doing it the right way in terms of just establishing already existing characters to additional series, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting view, and I agree on it. I don't see any flaw in the logic there. I think our biggest concern, everybody across the board, is just making sure that there's QC, some quality control. Quantity is going to be upping, so we got to make sure the quality stays. Don't want to drive this franchise into the ground. I don't know.
Yeah,
Any thoughts there?
I think that's a great comparison. I feel like the TV is going to be the way to go for Star Wars, at least for, I think, successful. I mean, I know they're still going to make movies, and stuff like that, and hopefully it'll be released in theaters. But, I think the future is for Star Wars. It's kind of do the opposite of Marvel, is use TV as your platform and hopefully launch that into some big set pieces with the movies. By the way, I would love to see Mando on a big theater screen as I know they did it for Game of Thrones, but just releasing the theaters as an event, to watch these 2 episodes of Mando back to back as a movie, because the quality is definitely there for it.
I mean, I think that's something that I would be interested in seeing, period, is series or season finales / premieres on the big screen, as long as the show fits it. I'm not talking about I don't want to see Friends, season 8 finale on the screen or whatever. Yeah. But Game of Thrones is a good fit. Mando is very cinematic. It would be a good fit. One of my friends, Dan on Facebook, actually mentioned, that would be a good idea. And I think movie theaters could probably use a boost. So if whatever studio behind the production is into it, then
when things are back to normal, I think releasing that is something that as a filler could be cool, or even before the next season launches.
For sure. At this point, we're pretty much done the the episode itself, so we're just kind of going to be free
over.
floating between some various topics. But the score I absolutely loved. I think Ludwig Göransson is great. You know, watching him again in the gallery and the way that he went about making it is pretty cool. But he also did the score for I believe Creed 1 and 2. I know he definitely did Creed 1. And like there is like every composer kind of has a motif where you notice certain things in the score, and there's like, it's hard to explain. I wish I could include a clip, but I'm not that tech savvy yet. But there's like a clip in like the Mando main theme that sounds very similar to like one of the themes from Creed, and it's like, oh yeah, it's that guy.
Right.
And quick side note before I throw it to you guys too. I really loved the score when Luke showed up. I know we're talking about Luke again, but it had it was very like this is going to sound really weird. It kind of reminded me in parts of like Terminator, not like the dun 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 dun, not that stuff, but there's like other parts of the score in between that, and it sounded kind of like that with Luke. So I don't know. I just thought he did a fantastic job in season 1 and 2. What do you guys think?
I agree. One of the strongest, like, I love the Mando theme. Like, I really do. And when they play it at the end of like every episode, I'm like, normally I'm like popping episodes.
It's a bop.
Yeah, it's a bop. I'm popping episodes off like once they're done on like normal TV shows, but I listen to that all the way through. It's funny you mentioned like Creed. There's at one point like during the Mando song where it like kind of switches tunes. It sounds like part of and I don't know if just my mind working. It sounds like part of the Rocky theme where it switches, and I'm like, wow, I'm like it for some reason, and I'm like, man,
yeah, like that's the part.
And there's like part where it's like do 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 do.
Yeah,
and like that literally sounds like rock, and it drives me like, and it drove me crazy like the first 2 times. I'm like, what, like what is this, like what am I thinking of? And I happen to watch like Rocky a couple months later. I'm like, oh, it's like very similar, but it's funny with like the whole like Creed comparison. But yeah. And you have Carl Weathers in there too, so.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, absolutely.
Mando.
What do you think of the score?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the thing with scores and with anything in shows and music and shows, it definitely hits me, and you know when it does. But I mean, as far as critiquing it, like I think we might have to call in Dom as a favor, as someone who owns I think every vinyl soundtrack from every top whatever score for any movie. So but yeah, I mean there definitely was a lot of elements in that last episode, like Chris mentioned when Luke's coming through that definitely give you the tinglies and the feels, and I think that's when you have a good composer to kind of make your product even more
tie it all together.
So
everybody's given credit and kudos to Favreau and Filoni, and rightfully so. We're not worthy. But I also got to say, Peyton Reed did an excellent job. I mean, nobody is talking about him, but I get it. Like the script was already written before him and everything, but like his direction in the episode, I thought was really well done. I mean, we're sitting here picking a couple nits with logic and loopholes and stuff like that. But overall, I thought it was a good episode, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that too.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the beauty of Mando. You talk about 16 episodes and like just having, some directors, take, 1 or 2 episodes, a season and just kind of knocking it out of the park. They definitely have chosen top quality. I mean, from Taika to what's her face? I can't think of her name right now.
Bryce Dallas Howard, Deb Cho.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rick Famuyiwa.
Yeah. I mean, there's just been so much, top tier, directing for that. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, and I don't think they had released who was doing who was directing the final episode. I think until maybe either the day it was released or either maybe like a week before. Like I wasn't aware Peyton Reed even directed it. I saw it at the end of the show, and I'm like, wow, like the Ant-Man guy did this, and I love Ant-Man. And I did like even just like look at the direction from that, like even like with the whole action scenes in Ant-Man, like they're very well done. and I think that he has like a real like it's obvious he's a Star Wars fan because the way like he tackled some of the action in it, just the getting the performances out of all the actors. Like, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see that he was involved with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just shows the faith that Disney has in him. Like, this is the season finale for like their biggest show right now. So
almost their only show right now.
yeah. So it's like something you say like, oh, well, maybe they're gonna get like Spielberg or something to get like to do this, and they're like, oh, Peyton Reed, like let's see how this is gonna go. But then like you watch it and you're like, wow, like I'm done underestimating people.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was thinking about too is I mean, I know we're always in the Rotten Tomatoes scores and in the rankings of Where Does This Lie, but looking it up, I looked it up on IMDb obviously afterwards, and it's got a 9.9 rating for this episode. Now, while I think that's really high, I roll emoji on that just because I get it. There's the initial hype, but I'm also a person of like, let's count as many things as possible. And there's like 50,000 votes to that compared to other episodes of the season, which don't even have like 20,000. So let's,
are you saying there might be some bias with Star Wars fans?
I think there might be, but 9.9, man. I mean, this episode's great, but I mean, I think a lot of that goes to the Luke reveal for it. So, as an overall, experience for the season, I absolutely love it. And I think it's a great show, and I'm very excited for the next season. But
so top of your head right now, like what score would you give it?
I'd probably say a 9, an 8.5. Like I mean, I think we've definitely picked some nits in there that could help bring it down. But I mean, a 9.9. The scale's a 10.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's breaking the universe as far as that's concerned. But that's just
what's a 10 for you? Like that's Seinfeld finale?
I would say, Seinfeld finale. Yeah, I know. So that was not well received.
No.
I mean, I think there's definitely some Game of Thrones episodes up there that you could consider a 10, but I think a lot of things have to interact there. And I mean, listen, we could go, 10 years in the future and they built, from this episode, but, I look at it as kind of, it's not that high.
My man Hans, what's your score?
I'm disappointed. And honestly, I'm just looking at the 9.9. I do disagree. And I'm on board. I think it should have been a 10.
Wow. Okay. Hardcore hot take. I like it. We're getting spicy.
Sure.
I think, Harry, I think I agree with you. I think a 9 is like a perfect spot for it. I don't think as an episode it was perfect, but it was good enough that it's legendary, and that's what a 9 should be for me.
Absolutely. That's a fair shout.
So
in all honesty, like IMDb is it's all those ratings are from fans. So it's not like Rotten Tomatoes where
you're doing your homework and you're reading things and you scroll past that and I go, what, a 9.9?
Yeah. It's always like very skewed, but then you look at like IMDb, like I don't necessarily take their ratings like seriously sometimes because I've seen movies they get like 5.8 like out of 10, and I've ended up loving them. Like,
thanks, Chris. You just blew the IMDb sponsorship. Thanks.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, be ready for the 5.8 movies that Chris loves.
Yeah, that's the next episode. 5.8 movies that I enjoy. But yeah, it's. I think 9.9, in all honesty, is a little high. Like I would rank it somewhere.
You said a 10. Yeah, 12. Yeah. Why not? Let's forget the scale.
Let's go higher.
I would 10. It's 100.
I would go like 8.5, like 9. It's hard. It's hard to review individual episodes of shows. I've always like kind of seen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, yeah, and like I said, I mean, I think if you rank the show, it's it hasn't gone on for 7 seasons, and we've checked out after season 5. So, but yeah, it was just something I thought of when I saw it. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the season was great. I mean, I think they definitely took what was good about season 1 and definitely took it up another level for it. Some of the cameos and even with the directors of bringing some directors who did episodes in season 1 back was crucial. But I mean, I think Chris's comparison to the Iron Man 2 reference is spot on of helping build the universe. There's a lot of things set up this season that will hopefully we'll look back on and say, hey, this was the first episode for this. And, that's when we got introduced to that character for people like me who didn't watch the Clone Wars. So
I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone here, but I really enjoy the lone wolf and cub aspect of the first 2 seasons. So now that the cub is going to be gone and it's just the lone wolf,
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. But I have faith that they'll keep the quality up.
Yeah, and season 2, one of the things that like kind of bothered me with the first season, and it didn't really have I don't want to say it didn't have a direction, but it was very like a mission of the week where like nothing really, like they kind of had their own individual stories. I think season 2 kind of fell into that, a few things like with the frog people and their eggs. Like it was
great.
It was a very I always thought that was a very weird episode, but at the same time I'm like I didn't hate it. Like
I believe that one was also directed by Peyton Reed, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah, I think so.
I did not know that. So I'm taking back everything I said. No, but I think that there's such a large world in Star Wars that has never been explored, and now that we're starting to like kind of even we're like backtracking to like Boba Fett. Like my favorite moment of the whole second season was Boba Fett coming back and just like wiping out the battalion of stormtroopers.
Yeah.
I love that.
Useless stormtroopers.
I'm glad they did that, and I really want to see, like, I'm glad they're doing the Boba show. I think the way they introduced that was great. Overall, season 2, like it had more of a path from like beginning to end, and it really like it strengthened the relationship between Grogu and Mando. But yeah, it was definitely a strong second season coming off. Like season 1 I felt like was going to be hard to kind of beat and build off of, but they're doing all the right things with introducing new characters that like we actually care about and are developing. And for the future of Star Wars TV, I think that it did its job and did it very effectively.
Fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think with that end scene there, you know, when if you didn't watch all the way through the credits, you should. But yeah, when Boba shows up, I mean, I think what I love most about it is that it's taking a character that we were introduced to the season or a storyline that we were introduced and building on that, as opposed to giving us like the Thanos reveal of like, here we go, there's a bigger picture, and then not recasting Thanos, but reimagining Thanos as, you know, a character. So I was happy they didn't show like Thrawn or anything like that. For it, but I gotta disagree with Chris. I'm not excited for the Boba show. He was never really like. I mean, he really got punked in the way he went out.
That's fair.
So he was never
Blind
like
Han Solo.
he was never for me a character that I was like all about. So I mean, listen, will I watch it? Probably. But I think, you know, when you talk about even like, you know, like we all watch pretty much with our wives for the most part, or, you know, with friends, I think there's going to be some people who just are like, you know, where's Grogu? You know, this isn't Mando. Isn't he part of, you know, and I know that was, you know, kind of a thing there for my wife where it was like, you know, is Mando like Boba? And, you know, that kind of, you know, missing link might happen a lot there for people.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't get enough Ming-Na Wen. I love her. So, you know, even going back to, well, Mulan and Street Fighter and ER, like I've always followed her career, and I'm excited that she's getting a part in one of the holy trinity of Disney. You know, she was already the princess and she was already in Marvel with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So now that she's going to have a big part in a show.
It's like HBO. They just use the people they know and just keep circling around.
It works, man. She's a great one to do that with.
Yeah.
Chris, you have any hot takes about Disney?
So one of the biggest things, and Harry and I have had, and like even in our group chats have had numerous discussions of what Harry call, and call what it is. It's the MCU formula. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that Disney kind of needs to start taking risks with some of their movies. I never felt like at any point any of these characters in season 2 or like anywhere like were any kind of serious threat. Like there were never like stakes against them.
Frog Lady's eggs were in mortal danger.
Yeah. Other than that, like The only person that I think the only major death that they've had on Mando was the droid from season 1 at the end when he went out in the lava.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, and I'm not saying I'm not one of those that says you need to kill off a main character, you need to kill off a main character to be effective. But I think that Disney kind of, it's always that MCU formula of you never feel that the hero is in any kind of mortal danger, only because they are it's very hard to kind of explain. But I mean, you've seen it with all 20 something Marvel movies up until Endgame. It took them 10 years to kill off a major character.
There was a scene in this one where Kara's gun gets jammed, and she's like, I gotta reload. She's like, I'll cover you. And there's 5 stormtroopers, and it's not like Kara is behind a wall. She's literally standing in a hallway, and there's maybe a structure that kind of leans over one way, but 5 stormtroopers got at least a clear shot to hit her. And I mean, I think this is where it goes to the world building, kind of like you're saying, Chris. It's Marvel did do 20 whatever amount of movies before they decided to start, cutting some people out. I mean, yeah, there was probably loss in between there, Tony Stark's father and stuff like that. Spoiler if you don't know how the Marvel movies go. But, there is an element here where, down the line, we're definitely going to get some change with that. But, yeah, there is that, sense of invincibility. But when you're going against stormtroopers, you stand a really good chance of surviving.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I think and I'm gonna repeat this. I'm not saying that you need to kill off Cara Dune or anything like that. But there's no, I never felt when they stormed that base that they were in any kind of danger. Mando got his head bashed in. We talked about it earlier, and he eventually then he went to go fight someone else.
So. He's resilient.
No marks for him. No scars.
Yeah, he pulled off that helmet. Looking all fresh.
Emotional scars, not even physical scars. And Harry, you had some thoughts on Boba?
Listen, I mean, I'll have to save that maybe for the Mando season 3 preview or the Book of Boba Fett. But there was definitely some quick cutting when his action scenes were going on. So I don't know if we need to find someone and have him do the voice, but I think there might be.
You're talking to recast the role and have Tim do the voice, right?
That's what I think I'm talking about. Because listen, I'm not in any fighting shape at all. But maybe we might need to rethink that, because there's definitely some fast cutting scenes with him, or some scenes where I was like, oh, looks like how can he kick his ass or her ass? So, with that.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, it's 2021. Dad bod's in, my friend. And look, it's not if you're in the Sarlacc pit for 5 years or however long he's in there, it's not like he's doing curls and stuff,
I gotta ask, did he eat the Sarlacc and that's how he got out? Is that what happened?
He ate his way out of the Sarlacc? That's what you're asking?
I'm thinking. That's what I'm asking. 5 years?
No, that's not. I don't think that's it.
That belly was on full display during that. When he came back, you could see that belly. He had that skirt on. I'm like,
ooh,
they probably could put him in a pair of pants because it would just dangle over.
You guys are rough on my man. Personally, I'm fine with it. I don't think they need to recast. It puts some real world heft and gravitas.
They gotta film the next season now. But like anything else, I mean, if you watch any show, and I would just use Cobra Kai for example. If you watch season 1 of Cobra Kai and then you see some of the characters they introduced for season 2, it's when did this person all of a sudden get in amazing shape as a young 18-year-old kid? And it's there'll definitely be some. I'm sure he'll be doing some training in the off season before they start filming the show.
This is kind of tangential to that, but I was number one, I was excited to learn that they cast I think his name is Matthew Atwood, who played Bib Fortuna in episode 1, and he played him again as Bib Fortuna in the prologue of this. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I also loved how he just sat there getting large and in charge, eating, doing the Jabba deal. He's like, you know what? I'm running the throne now. I'm going to be eating all these green gooey things that Jabba liked. No salacious crumb. I was a little disappointed. Yeah. No salacious crumb. But we did get him a clunky, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And last point on that, my favorite part of that whole scene is normally, like, I feel like you'd have someone like kind of just like talk a little more, like, and like kind of like explain like whatever. Boba's just like, nah.
Yeah,
He's like,
even guns
he's like,
a-blazing.
I thought you were dead, blah blah. And Boba's just like, nah, I'm not.
Boba.
Yeah. No, I'm not. He's like, I'm not out. Get out of my chair.
Good stuff. Well, I mean, we hit a lot of points with that episode. That's it for our show notes. You guys have any thoughts or anything else you wanted to wrap up with that we didn't touch on?
No, I mean, I would say I'm excited to touch base on other shows. I mean, now we have some time to kind of, digest Mando, have people, do second, third, fourth rewatches. Book of Boba will be coming out, and stuff like that. So there'll be more stuff coming from it. And I mean, they got all those other shows down the pipe. So yeah.
Cool. Hans, anything from you?
No, I mean, it's good to see, like, kind of discuss it, like, in these times. Like, it's good to have like this these shows to kind of like lean on. I think it's good to discuss it with you guys. And there's a lot more coming down the line. I mean, not just from Star Wars, but we have like Marvel shows are starting up. We have WandaVision starting up next week. I'm sure Harry's excited about that. And
whatever.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I feel like there's so much things that we can, so much more things we can talk about as well. And I'm just looking forward to further discussing.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me. You will be here every week because I own your souls, but also because you want to. Yes, that's right. You signed that contract, Harry. You can't get out of it now.
7 years.
But we are going to be diving into various areas of fandom, not just TV shows. So we'll be looking at fandom, I said, but pop culture is what I actually meant. So we'll be looking at all kinds of things and discussing. So no timeline on when our next episode is going to be, but we're looking to make this maybe a weekly or bi-weekly thing. So it'll be soon. So just keep an eye out for that. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe. Thank you, Harry.
Absolutely.
I saw your face in there.
Leave a review. Make sure it's 5 stars.
Yes, absolutely. If you get a chance, leave a review or comment on YouTube, whatever. But we appreciate you guys listening in with us. And let's see, anything you guys want to say before we sign out?
No.
Okay, dead silence, crickets. All right, well, I will sign off with my tagline then, and that is, live spicy, my friends.
Live spicy.